Members, or questions of Representative Troxclair? No, Ms. Davis has one.
Mr. Chairman, the one sentence that I'm reading, it says that preference to goods and services produced by private commercial sources rather than use state funds.
Right.
And so the agencies that are going to go and use these, what funds are they going to use with the private commercial entities that are going to do business for the state? Sounds like this is a privatization bill, and you're saying not to use state funds, but in fact, are we expecting the state to fund these programs that you used the example of TxDOT, and I'm just trying to figure out what funds would the private commercial sources use if we don't provide state funds for that infrastructure we
Sure.
want them to build?
Yes, thank you for that question. So I think the easiest example to use if we're talking about TxDOT is we use TxDOT. We say this project is needed. We put out a bid for private companies to come and say, we're going to build this road. Here's how much it's going to, here's how much our bid is. But we don't have TxDOT itself submitting a bid and saying that they're going to construct the road themselves. And so it's just a difference between being that collaborator and that connector to go forward and complete state projects, but not necessarily have the state be in the business of them owning the bulldozers and going out and paying directly. Because ultimately, not only does it distort our competitive market, but then we're in the business of using kind of leveraging the power of the government and the advantage that we have as the state to compete against companies who are already providing these services. So it's just making that delineation much more clear of what the state's role is and what the private sector's role is.
And so, as I said, I think this is a privatization issue, but when you say don't use state funds, you mean don't use state employees, because you got to use the state funds. That's who's going to pay for the project. So even though it
Sure.
might be privatized with a commercial private company, the state still has the responsibility to pay for it and procure somebody to go do the work. So
Yes.
when it says rather than use state funds, it suggests that we're not going to pay for it. And if we don't pay for it, you're not going to get private commercial companies to come and bid on those projects.
Yeah, that is an important point that you bring up. And I will look at potentially tweaking that wording because, yes, the intention is, in that example, the state is not hiring the employee that's going to go use the bulldozer. It's the private company that hires that person, and then their bid is reimbursed by the state, right? So we'll make sure that that's clear. We're already working on that committee substitute anyway. So I'll get with you and make sure that that's more clear.
Your example with regard to TxDOT, we've already started doing privatization with TxDOT many years ago, but
Right.
we still have to use state funds to pay for it. So
That's right.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.